everybody, and welcome to another episode of Death By, where contestants will earn reps for their arguments for a chance to stand on top of the podium pedestal. I am your host, Lauren Khalil. Whoever I decide has the best argument through the final round will earn 30 seconds to talk about a topic of their choosing. On today's episode, we have affiliate owner and CrossFit analyst Chase Ingraham with Get With The Programming, founder and head coach of Underdogs Athletics, Justin Cotler, and the man behind Jason CF Media, Jason Croxon. Sean and Tommy are going to love your background. I think Chase even loves your background. Maybe it'll earn you extra points, but I don't understand any of those characters behind you. So maybe.
Well, clearly that's Dragon Ball Z and has nothing to do with comic books.
Oh, see, yeah, we're already off. Are there any comic book references or superheroes, or I don't know who's behind you?
I mean, I've got comic books, if you want that here.
That Red Hulk?
That was Planet Hulk.
Planet Hulk, dude, that the savagery.
That's just what happened to be. I was just going to wave and say hello during the introduction because I realized I listened to this mostly audio only, and I listened to you introduce everyone each episode, and I'm just, I don't. Nobody describes the funny joke Chase is doing with the phone when when you cut to him.
So. We don't have like a catchphrase.
You have to watch. It's different.
I like that.
Maybe we'll add that in.
I also forget you have a last name, Jason.
I know. Every time she says that, I'm like, who? Oh, that guy.
Who? Right. It's not CF Media? That's weird.
I might get it changed.
Legally changed because that's the only way people recognize you.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's get into this week's episode. Let's play Death By. Round number 1. In Dave Castro's latest week in review, a viewer presented a question saying that the Open doesn't matter and gave ideas on how it could potentially matter. Castro's response, he said, quote, "We will make it matter again," and quote, "We have plans to fix that." What are the pros and cons to potentially having athletes punch their ticket to the games from the Open? Again, how it used to be. We will start with you, Jason, in round number 1.
Well, personally, I don't think the line "the Open doesn't matter" is true, but I know you've spoken about that before. So we'll just focus on the very small percentage of people that do the Open with a genuine shot of making it to the games. Would an automatic spot to the games make it more important? Of course, but at what cost? Well, I think in the eyes of many, while it might add value to the Open, it would probably devalue the games. The spots at the games are incredibly precious, and qualifying someone just through a few online workouts, it doesn't really seem to merit a ticket to the games. That being said, I've spoken to a lot of athletes in the lead up to the Open and now quarterfinals, and the majority are more concerned about quarterfinals because of how few are making it then to the semifinals. So I do think saying that the top finisher in the Open for each region could get a ticket to the semifinals would actually be a good alternative, because they would still have to compete in person against the best in their region to actually get a ticket to the games. But it would be, they wouldn't have the stress of having to worry about quarterfinals. Even things like being able to book flights, accommodation in advance would make life easier for them, being able to negotiate with sponsors and things like that. So it'd be a tremendous reward for them to be able to skip that portion of the competition, but it would still mean that the right people are getting to the games going through semifinals.
So you don't want to see the Open bring them straight to the games. You rather it be straight to semifinals.
Yes.
Okay. 3 points for Jason. Justin, what are your thoughts here?
Listen,
here we go. Let me get ready. And
people have to understand that things evolve, like sports evolve. Okay, we're in a very different place than we were when the Open started in 2011. I think what we should be focusing on, especially on the sports side, is figuring out how to make this more like a professional sport. We talk about having a season or something that's similar to the PGA Tour or the tennis tour or Formula One, et cetera, where we're trying to have more in-season competitions where you can gain points, and that if that will qualify you for the games. and those are all, ideally in-person events. I'm not a big fan of the Open having much to do with the games at all. Especially at this point in the sport. It's an awesome thing that the entire community gets to do, 3 workouts where, Tia Claire Toomey and Laura Horvath and Justin Medeiros and Ricky Garrard are getting to do those workouts. You get to have fun with your friends and compare it to this person or that person. But what we're talking about ultimately a professional sport for these athletes, how they make a living, it's what they do with their sponsors, etc. I would hate to see more weight given to the Open, especially, if you're talking about that time of year, someone may have an injury, someone may get sick for a week, and, it may turn out to mean much more than it should. And so I'm not a fan of it at all. I don't think it should be, I don't think we should elevate it much from what we've seen. I just think that's part of what we're dealing with the evolution of sport. I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And my goal would be hopefully that we gear it more and more and more and more the sports side, that we create more of a professionalism in the sport. And that doesn't take away from the community or the methodology at all. And the Open is a cool part of that, but I don't think it needs to be more than what it is.
So could there be any pros that you see from this?
Not particularly.
Okay. I'll give you 1.5 points for answering half of the question.
Well, I answered the question. I said there were no
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
Pros
and so the
cons.
answer
You
is
gotta come with both.
no, I don't. Not when I don't think there's any pros. I don't have to.
That's true.
Yeah, he deserves more than 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, that's a joke, but that's fine.
That's at least a 3-point answer.
I mean, I'm cool with it
It
though,
was
Lauren.
going to be a 3-point answer.
Lauren's on me this
pro.
season. I don't know. I did something with Lauren in the off season. We come back.
Ask Justin a question. Are there any pros? And he answers the question.
Yeah.
No points.
0 points for me.
Because
all right.
you didn't answer the question.
Chase.
I agree here. That's at least 2, a half a point. Yeah.
Thank you.
Since when is everybody else the point givers?
Hey, I'm as a competitor am looking out for Justin here.
Man.
Mostly I don't want to hear about the bitching at the end when I win, but
nice.
Just go ahead, Chase. Go ahead, Chase.
All right. I really like what Jason had said about Open to semifinals. I really like that a lot. It's a very simple way to make the Open matter more without putting any new changes or wild things into the Open other than good programming that is going to filter these athletes in only 3 events. And that's the big thing here. I hated when they sent athletes to the CrossFit Games directly from the Open. What is it, 19 and 20? And they had 5 events to do that. There's no way you can do that appropriately in just 3 events during the Open to send people to the CrossFit Games. It is a way too big of an advantage to give to those athletes with programming that doesn't necessarily reflect CrossFit Games qualification abilities and skills and strengths. I do like the qualification to semifinals as one option, but at the same time is that Justin is talking about engagement, excitement, more professionalism. I think the way to make the Open matter more and quarterfinals more is something that I've been working on with Bill Grundler and Mike Halpin on Get With The Programming is making the Open a part of the strength of field system that goes into semifinals, week in and week out, as well as the 2 submission dates in quarterfinals. And every week you have a new top 100 based off the 100 worldwide in the leaderboard. Same with week 2, same with week 3. There's a show to do every week and it comes to that, and it'll constantly change who the top 100 is and what game spots are being allocated to which semifinal. You're creating shows. Every week in the NBA, there's a new show about who's in the top 6 going to the playoffs and who's in the bottom 4 going to the new playoff system. All of that stuff creates content, excitement, entertainment, engagement, and buy-in from the top athletes because now the Open matters more for strength of field. Now the quarterfinals matter more for the top 100 and what semifinals is getting what games qualifying spots. And so you create this worldwide participatory event with everything on the line for games athletes as well. It's another way to keep the Open mattering more without changing a whole system in place that you have already.
I like that. 2 points for Chase because you stole from Jason for the first part.
Well, I'm concerned about this version of Chase Ingraham we've got on the show because he's trying to give points to Justin. He's saying nice things about me.
It is a little weird.
Yeah. You okay?
You made a great point that I already had written down, so I gave you props for making a great point because I agree with you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not going to come in here and just like, stupid idea, Jason.
You've been known to do that before. So
Well, it's because it was a stupid idea the last time you talked.
There we go.
That was a good one.
Now he's back.
Now we can continue to play the game. Topic number 2, CrossFit. They recently announced that Hustle Up, a new fitness app built for CrossFit affiliate owners and athletes, will be the official sponsor of the Masters, Teen, and Adaptive CrossFit Games, as well as the official sponsor of the 2024 CrossFit semifinals. Now, my question is, what are your overall thoughts? But also, is this a conflict of interest given that Hustle Up offers affiliate programming? We will start this round with Justin Kotler.
I'll be honest, I know nothing about Hustle Up. I didn't even know that they existed prior to you asking this question and hearing about.
You got the questions beforehand, Justin.
Yeah, I no, I'm saying, when I looked at the question that you asked, I had to look up Hustle Up because I don't know anything about them. But that being said, I think we've learned, over the last year that if you are willing to pay a little bit of money, I think that you can be a sponsor. I think we saw that last year with, was it Proven, Mayhem, and HWPO that, were official sponsors at the games. And, they all, I don't know, I felt like that was kind of weird with all the other camps. And, ultimately I heard then there was, it was, you paid to be a sponsor. So I think ultimately we're in a situation where CrossFit, I don't want to say that they're struggling to get sponsors, but I think that they are pretty much, it's open season. So if you're willing to fork up some cash and want to be a sponsor, that seems to be on the table for you. So whether or not that's a conflict of interest, I don't think it matters. I think you're talking about the system itself. Look at all the different camps that have affiliate programs. Look at the CrossFit that has an affiliate program. Look at this person that has an affiliate. I think at this stage of the game, it's so unregulated. I don't see it mattering. It doesn't seem to be a big deal to me. I think if it would have been a big deal, it would have been a big deal last year when Mayhem, Proven, and Hard Work Pays Off are official sponsors of the games. So I see it as this is a nothing burger. 0.5 points for Justin. Let's go. Next person.
Are you only saying this because O'Keefe is not on the call today?
No, I would say that prior to you. I listen, last year, I'm not saying that was a bad thing that they were sponsors. I'm saying that they were in a position to be able to become an official sponsor because they had, they had the money to be able to offer to CrossFit to say, hey, we want to be official sponsors. A lot of other people aren't in that position, but you know what? Good for them. Like if you've got the position, if you've got the money and you've got the resources to be able to be an official sponsor and get more visibility, well, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't begrudge anyone doing that. So I'm totally cool with it.
Okay, I have some follow-up questions, but we'll let the other contestants answer first.
Cool.
2 points for Justin. Chase, what are your thoughts here?
Hustle, as Justin said, is when this got announced, I think it was like a week or so ago, I had no idea what this was. And the question was like, is this even an app? That was a little up for debate on social media. And if you look at their Instagram, they have like 1,600 followers on Instagram. It's a very brand new app, but a sponsor nonetheless of a season, mainly teen, adaptive, and age group that need sponsors. They need support because they are facilitating this CrossFit Games finale competition for CrossFit, and they need more help and support as they go along. Yes, they're going to be a part of semifinals as well, but to Justin's point, he's talking about, I don't see any conflict of interest if they're offering affiliate programming because of what we had at the CrossFit Games last year. Mayhem sponsoring the RV park, HWPO doing some type of things in the in the vendor village area. All of them have different kind of programming, individualized programming, masters, adaptive, strongman, and affiliate programming that's coming out with a lot of these athletes as well, or camps. So no, there's no conflict of interest there. I'm of the position is that if they are willing to step up and put in some money to support the sport and the athletes for there is, then as long as they're not a direct competitor of CrossFit itself, then I think it's a good play to have out there. I mean, Greg Glassman said, he's like, I would accept money from anybody, but if I don't believe in what you do, I'm not going to promote you. I mean, look at the Olympics. You have Olympics sponsored by McDonald's and Coca-Cola for crying out loud, but they give the most money out there. Look at the NFL and the beer sponsors and all of this thing. It's like CrossFit needs to make sure is that, or I would say not CrossFit. Fans need to understand that there's a difference between what we do inside the gym with CrossFit and who we are as a sport. And this sport needs people sponsoring and putting money in that isn't necessarily something that they align with in the methodology. And they're completely separate. So I'm totally okay with it.
Okay, good points. 3 points for you. Jason, what's your take?
So it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because as both Chase and Justin have mentioned, like they'd never heard of it before. So people are suspicious about, where's this app come from and how can they then be in a position to sponsor the games? Where's the money coming from? I've done a little bit of digging. First, I would address the conflict of interest thing, though. I think the points have been made. I would see it as a bigger conflict of interest, a training camp that has athletes at the games being a sponsor, than an app that does affiliate programming, because the nature of owning an affiliate means that you're free to pick programming from anywhere. You make it yourself or you go somewhere else and get it. That's sort of the nature of being an affiliate as opposed to being a franchise. The concern I have, or the thing that I'm intrigued about a little bit, is the way they're planning to integrate using it. Because I was reading an article and they were talking about the fact that you could use it to, semifinals could use it to communicate with volunteers, or for spectators to book, things that will be happening at semifinals. And that's a little bit strange, because if they want to take a sponsor and say, look, we'll stick your name everywhere, and if people want to use you, that's absolutely fine. They're free to do that. But if you're starting to sort of force volunteers to have the app because that's how we're going to be communicating at semifinals, or spectators to have the app because that's how you're going to book into different things that will be happening during semifinals, well, now you're forcing people to go and download a free app. But we know with these kind of apps, they always say, if it's free, then you're not a customer, you're the product. So I don't really like that you're sort of directing people to download and install something that we don't really know much about.
Interesting. I didn't think of it that way. 3 points for Jason. To follow up on specifically Chase and Justin were talking about this, saying that, they don't think there's a conflict of interest because we've already seen what happens with training camps as sponsors. But is there certain benchmarks that a sponsor should make in order for CrossFit to take their money to see that they're in line with them? Or are we at the point where it just doesn't really matter as long as it's not a bad sponsor to the brand, then we're going to take your money?
Benchmarks in what context?
I mean, in anything, like how much in line is it with the methodology or what we're doing, or sport, or viewership? Like we talk about how this seems like a newer app and doesn't maybe have the backing that some other apps in our ecosystem have. Like, are there if you look for a new games location, there's certain benchmarks that they need to reach in order for it to even get on the plate.
Well, we don't know how much money they gave, though. You know what I mean? So it's at the end of the day, I don't know how established you have to be if you meet the requirements of the donation, or not donation, but ultimately you meet the requirements of what it costs to be a sponsor. I don't have an issue with it. And again, I think Chase brings up a good point. We look at, the various sponsors in different sports, and a lot of them don't line up with, health and fitness or lifestyle brands. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we see, they're not necessarily great for you, but they got a lot of money. Now I don't know anything. Like I said, I don't know enough about this app or this company, to be able to say one way or the other, other than to say that if they paid the required sum that they needed to be able to come to the table and be a part of it, and maybe CrossFit has plans with them in the future. I have absolutely no idea. But I I don't see it as an issue, especially because they do kind of fit into the ecosystem. I mean,
Mhm.
I mean, it's for all intents and purposes, it looks like they're a fitness app, right? So, I mean, it does make a lot of sense. And there are several out there. So my thing is like competition is fine. If you've got this app that's willing to pay and this app's not willing to pay, well, the app that's willing to pay is the one that's going to get the sponsorship, right? I mean, that's the way it works.
So, Lauren, are you asking then, like, so Chase talked about Coca-Cola, McDonald's, things like that. So
Mhm.
is your question more in line with, so if there's something that goes so contrary to the methodology of CrossFit in general, like, should there be a benchmark that CrossFit says, like, I get it that, people that watch the Olympics, they see McDonald's, but they're not necessarily going out and themselves practicing the things they're watching on TV, compared to CrossFit, where the majority of people that watch the sport of CrossFit are then going to their affiliate or training and sort of being told one thing in the box with regards to their nutrition and how they approach life, and then are looking at the games and it's being sponsored by something that is kind of contrary to what they're being told when they're training. Is that the sort of benchmarks that you are thinking about?
Yeah, because even when we think about when Monster was a sponsor of the CrossFit Games and everybody was arguably upset about that, but then you look at, well, is this helping us continue to do the thing and move the sport forward? I think it's this balancing act. So do we have like hard and fast lines, or are there certain benchmarks that we would want to see represent the games or stages in the games?
Yeah, I think there needs to be, just because, as you said, when Monster was a sponsor, people weren't happy. So I think they do need to walk a line to a degree where they can say, well, like, okay, this company's bringing in a lot of money and it's not, directly in conflict with what we're doing, so we could use them. Whereas maybe this other company, yes, it's even more money, but if then it upsets, a lot of people, is that necessarily a good thing for us? But then at the same time, I think with enough digging into pretty much any company that can afford to sponsor the games, you're going to find something you don't like. So maybe, it's inevitable anyway.
Okay. Moving on now to topic number 3. This is a little off from CrossFit, but I swear it's relevant. On a recent Tactical Games podcast, they discussed how they're going to implement PED testings at their national competition. As a cost-effective way, they are going to have athletes anonymously write the names of athletes who they think should be tested. The top 3 men and the top 3 women whose names are written down will then be tested. So my question is, should CrossFit implement this in addition to their current system as a way to have people outside of the podium tested? Why or why not? Chase, we will start this round with you.
All right. I went and listened to this podcast and that portion that they were talking about. And I'll say this, the first thing that jumped off the bat, they said CrossFit does testing and they just keep all the results in-house, which is a total lie. CrossFit releases all the information of their tests constantly, and they're constantly looking to catch people. Could their testing be better, more robust? Yes, but maybe we need some more sponsors to pay for those additional testings in season and out of season, especially for athletes that are on bans at the moment, right? You get banned for 4 years. You could juice up all you want because rarely do they go back and test during that 4-year ban, and then you come back on the playing field. What I did like is this is actually something that I heard from, I don't even know his real last name, so he's kind of like Jason, but Brian Spin of the Barbell Spin. He actually said this about a month ago on Around the Whiteboard, where he said, if you fail a drug test, his offer was you should have the opportunity to basically dime out another athlete. And if you are correct and that athlete also fails a drug test, you will get your sentence reduced by 1 year. If you dime someone out and they are clean, you have to pay for the drug test that CrossFit administered for that athlete. And I thought that was a fantastic one. Now, what I don't want is like, well, if I dime out 5, I'm back in the game. That is not on the table. Maybe reduce that to 2. Because like if you have someone come out there like Jose Canseco and he just out half of the Major League Baseball Players Association of taking steroids, maybe reduce it at most to 2. right? But if you know some people and you can do that, some type of incentive there. It's just like when you see affiliates telling, I would say, us on the CrossFit affiliate team that there are gyms out there illegally using CrossFit for profit that are not actual affiliates. We can't police the world when it comes to that, but affiliates will tell us about that and then we can act on it. I think a similar system in place here, but with that little incentive system or payment that you'd have to do would be really cool to implement for CrossFit.
Ooh, I do like that. I was going to give you 5 points, but since it was technically a Spinny answer, is his last name Spinny?
No, I don't know what his real
No,
last
I
name
don't know what
is.
his last name is either.
I'm going to go down a rabbit hole later today, and I'm going to
I
find
didn't
the
want to
answer.
plagiarize. I wanted to give credit where credit was due.
Absolutely. I'm going to give you 4 points. That 1 point we'll send over to Brian
Brian,
Spinny, whatever your last name is.
Yeah.
That I'll do my research and I'll find out. So 4 points for Chase. Jason, what are your thoughts?
Well, when you first sent through a question about tactical games, I was a little bit upset because when you were on Plate Stack Chat, I told you I know nothing about the tactical games, and then you sent this question. And also, I didn't like Brian Spin's answer because I was on that episode of Around the Whiteboard and he won. So that hurts a little bit. I don't really think this is the solution. I'm thinking maybe because of things like training camps where, I know someone like Justin Cotler, he would never do this. But theoretically, someone could tell all their athletes, we want you to put this name on the paper. And so there would be ways you could manipulate the system. Does the testing need to be improved? Absolutely. I think at the moment there are kind of 2 camps of people when they look at testing within CrossFit. There are those that believe everyone is clean and people are just jealous if they can't, perform as well. And then you have people that believe kind of maybe everybody is doing it and they're just not getting caught. And I don't think this solves that problem. I do think we need more testing throughout the year and maybe more thorough testing and definitely testing when people aren't expecting it, because just choosing to test a few more people at the times that they already know people are being tested is not going to solve any of the problems that people are saying are the problems with testing. So definitely a better solution, but it's not this one.
3 points for Jason. Kotler, what are your thoughts? And do you have any idea of what your thoughts would be to what Jason was saying with the training camps? Do you think people would actually do that?
Yeah, I would assume people would do that for sure. I'm not a big fan of this, from the tactical games. I am a big fan of creating a much more robust testing system. But like Chase said, man, it's expensive. I mean, it's very expensive. We've heard for years CrossFit has been criticized because they're not associated with USADA or WADA. It's not public, et cetera. And I think the best way to handle that is to lay out what the drug protocol and what their system is. I mean, I think it's honestly, it's not communicated very well. And I think they could do a better job of that. I think if people understood, more of who's being tested at what events, how many spots, those types of things. But I do agree that there needs to be significant more randomized testing. I definitely agree with Chase about, people who get popped and then they have 4 years. And I mean, do they get tested during that time? Again, there's not a lot of transparency there. There's not a lot of communication with the public as to what it really is going on. And I think that's why there's so much criticism behind the scenes from people. So I would just love to see the system leveled up, a lot. And I think that can happen if they really dove into it and took the time to try to, create something that was more robust. And, but again, a lot of it's money, guys. People have to realize that at the end of the day, you need financial backing to be able to test as much as people want. But no, I don't, as far as going back to the question, not a big fan of the tactical games, that plan.
Knowing that this is a huge financial lift for a company or an organization, is there somewhere that you guys would like to see the money coming from? Whether it is, people, this might sound lame, but donating throughout the calendar year or having some kind of like fund where people can invest in to help keep the sport clean or cleaner.
You can, you guys ever order like a Chipotle online?
Sure.
Duh.
Button was like, you like to round up here?
There you go.
There we go.
Let's do that
The
for
round
the
up button.
round up button in the open. Donate $5 to drug testing.
Oh, there we go.
So one of the things that, I mean, we talk about it and obviously it's expensive, but I think it's less expensive to test more than to, and to have that be a system that obviously is a deterrent to people, because at the end of the day, nothing is going to hurt the sport more than having your big time athletes pop, right? So if we've got a more robust system that actually puts the fear of God in people, that's the best way, to legitimize the sport as a professional sport. But also, I think in the long run, it saves you money, because if you get one of your cash cows that pops, I mean, that's a massive, massive blight on the sport. So, I know that's maybe like kind of long-term thinking and maybe it's not the most optimistic, but whenever you've got a sport where people can make money and garner sponsorships, the bottom line is people are going to try to cut corners. And we've seen that happen in the past. And I would just love to see, a system where I think, that tests enough athletes per year that people will have to think twice. Because right now it's, you kind of know when you're going to get tested, right? I mean, when you're going to get tested. It's very rare. There's not a ton of randomized testing. There is some, but at the end of the day, I don't know that it's enough to put the fear of God of people to really stop it.
I thought maybe it could be like a get out of jail free card for the sponsors that they want to use, but they think people will be upset about. So maybe they do get McDonald's and everyone's like, oh, how could you get McDonald's? It goes against everything we believe within CrossFit. You say, guys, don't worry. We're going to use the money for drug tests.
There you go.
And they'll be happy.
Drug test system.
And then randomly, Ronald McDonald turns up at different affiliates and tests these athletes. So that would be great.
Oh, wow.
For another, just
I like it.
Yuki to Ronald.
That could make some really good marketing. You know what, Justin Kotler, after 32 minutes of reflection, I'm going to give you 6 points because I do feel like I've ripped you off a couple of weeks in a row. So
I just won.
You just won today by half a point. So that half a point at the beginning helps you.
Point comes in. The one we were complaining about comes in.
Full circle, baby.
Wow. Look at that. Lauren threw me a bone, guys. I don't know how I feel about that. I feel a little dirty right now.
Yeah.
Maybe
the interest on the 3 points that you didn't get are now 6. So that's impressive, isn't it? That's inflation for you.
Justin Kotler is our champion. He has won 30 seconds to talk about a topic of your choosing. You may begin.
I wasn't extremely prepared for this because I've been getting smashed the last few weeks. So I didn't want to. I didn't want to come in, and jinx myself by having anything prepared. But one thing I will discuss, this is just a little bit of a pet peeve of mine that I noticed on the leaderboard for the teams this last couple of days. How come they don't have the team rosters on the leaderboard? Have you guys noticed that?
Yeah.
What the heck is going on? Like, I went on there and I'm looking through the teams and I'm trying to figure out who's on these teams. And I have absolutely no idea for the majority of them. I see the names, I see the scores. I don't see who the heck is on the teams. And except for obviously, the 3 or 4 teams that have gotten the most notoriety and the most visibility, right now, everyone else is anonymous. So that's just a pet peeve of mine that I've noticed the last couple of days, and hopefully CrossFit will be able to go on the leaderboard and change that. I don't think it's too big of an ask. Let's give these athletes a little bit of credit. Let's let people look them up, and hopefully it brings them a little bit of visibility because they've earned it, obviously, if they're in the top 10, top 20 in the world. But for the majority of them right now, they're living in anonymity. So anyway, I noticed that the last couple of days and it bothered me.
I would agree with that. It would be very nice to know who is on each team.
Don't know who's on the teams.
Cool. Something to talk about.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah. Well, even though you didn't come prepared, Justin, that was a great topic of conversation for us to think about as we keep refreshing, and hopefully eventually the rosters of the teams will show up.
Appreciate it.
Well, Justin, congratulations. Chase, Jason, thank you guys for joining on another episode of Death by. Quarterfinals for individuals next week. Can't believe it's already here. Who here is doing it?
Yeah.
Chase.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Can't
Well,
wait.
good luck. Justin, good luck to your athletes.
Thank you.
Jason, good luck to all the media and things that you're doing to cover athletes over the pond. And we will see you guys next time.